time. Pull the call.
You have failed this city.
Winter is coming.
Star-Lord.
Finish him. Hadouken! Fatality.
And welcome to the Free Your Geek show, as it were. I am your host, Jay Free. Back in, as I'm spilling my papers, back in the studio is my illustrious co-host, KB.
What's up, brother?
My favorite co-host, the Don.
Hello.
And
Jerk.
return guest 2 days in a row. This is like part 2.
2 days in a row? 2 weeks?
know,
Two
huh?
shows in a row.
Two shows in a row.
shows in a row.
So this is like if we had a movie and then we had the sequel with the same cast, except we're adding to the cast and a returning member. So welcome back, Rich Marini.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being. So we're already getting comments. Danielle says I'm not huge Freddy freak. Woo. Or I think she's trying to say maybe she is. I don't know. But Danielle, thank you for watching. We're going to be talking about some horror movie stuff. Set the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit. KB's going to do a 2-minute movie review. Then spoilers. We'll be talking about the Walking Dead season 7 finale and our thoughts on that. Then we're going to segue into some horror films and just discuss our love of horror films. And then on the final countdown, the top 3 favorite movie slasher deaths, whether it's the killer themselves or just a death in a particular horror flick. We're going to rank our favorites there. I'm going to put a caveat right away that I'm going to be raked across the coals for mine. These guys are way more horror movie buffs than I am, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So let's first start off. KB, let's talk Ghost in the Shell. I know you saw it. We haven't seen it yet.
Yep.
No.
So just give it like a very high-end preview or review. If you want to keep it spoiler-free, that'd be great. If you need to throw in some spoilers, just give us the forewarning first.
No spoilers. Decent movie overall. There's probably people that are familiar with the source material. Interestingly, for me, I was not familiar with the source material at all. This was my first experience with Ghost in the Shell. I know it's been around for, maybe you can correct me, 30 years? Something like that?
Bare minimum 30, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It's been around a long time. Scarlett Johansson's fantastic as always.
Yeah.
She's not enough to really save the film to make it great. You know what I mean? If I was on a scale of 1 to 10, it's to me like a 7.5.
Kept your attention.
Yeah, it kept my attention, but I can see why the critics are kind of hitting on it because the story might be a little weak if you're not really into this type of film.
Yeah.
Or you're not a fan of the
anime.
The anime. So for me though, as a person newly experiencing it, it's gonna make me go and read and follow up and
Nice.
look at, you know what I mean? Because I enjoyed it. And got to see it in 3D. The whole Asian environment, it's just crazy with the advertising and in 3D. It's gorgeous. I know they're going to lose a ton of money on this film. You know
That is true.
But definitely check it out. It's worth seeing in 3D. Some people are probably going to say they don't like it. The ending's a little blah, but the concept is fantastic. And the basic concept is that, without giving too much away, and basically it's a woman who is sort of killed, I guess we'll say, and is put into a robot body, and she is the ghost in the shell. Her soul is the ghost in the shell, and then it gets a little weird with a lot of the company that does this. They kind of control her memories and what memories she has and can replace memories. So it's a very interesting dynamic. It's just you feel like sometimes that you wish they could have done a little bit more with making the story more, or some of the characters making them a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Would it get a sequel? Probably not if it loses a ton of money.
No,
I don't know.
I don't see that happening.
Because I know there were spin-off movies with the animations.
Yeah.
There's a ton of spin-off. But again, it's one of those movies. Put it in the category of like your Resident Evils, your Underworlds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ooh,
It's
I
gonna
love
be,
them.
but it's gonna be a fan-specific thing.
Yeah.
Don't go in there as a regular moviegoer and expecting it to just blow your mind.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
What I do gotta say is, just by seeing the trailer alone, they did so good with casting on this,
Yep.
like character-wise and
Yep.
the looks of the characters. It was.
You don't get enough of the characters. Like that's one of the problems with the film.
Well, hey.
Apparently, there's something going on.
One of our cars is probably destroyed.
We might lose some power here.
Tornado.
Yeah, it's that's some thunder. I don't know if you heard that in the background, but apparently that's God's way of saying hurry up.
Right,
and
with your
finish-
podcast.
That's
finish up this review.
So anyway, like I said, overall 7 out of 10 for me, 7.5, somewhere in that area. Check it out. If it's good to see in the theaters in 3D because you get the effects. But if you want to wait till Blu-ray, like that's fine too. You know, you're not losing that much. So
I
it's
just
a good
you had
movie.
me at
It's a good
Scarlett
movie.
Johansson personally.
Oh,
but,
and she looks fantastic,
Of course.
And it does start off with a little
don't-
with a little nudity, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know
You know,
about that.
not full on,
All
but
right. Well,
enough
while
to-
we're talking about nudity, this seems like a good a time as any to say hello to everybody that's
Yep.
commenting right now. Joe Andrade saying what's up, what's up. Danielle said to say hi to Don and Jay Free, so hello, Danielle.
Hey.
Karen LaCroix is
my
apparently
mom.
watching this. Your mom's watching this, so hi, Mom.
You mind if I get like 30 seconds on the mic real
Oh,
quick?
go, dude, of course.
I'd like to say a very special happy birthday to my sister Kayla. Also, I noticed that Lindsay Vienna is watching. Happy birthday, Lindsay Vienna. And Russell, God, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I want to talk about
Russell.
that. So Russell said it's kind of off topic, but The Undertaker supposedly retired
Yeah.
at WrestleMania 33.
See, we were talking about deaths.
It's
tie-in.
so you know
Good
what,
tie-in.
Russell? It's not really off topic. We're talking about
Yeah.
death. The dead
not off
man
topic.
himself. For who the bell tolls, the Undertaker, the
Yeah.
gong. You know, he comes out with a hat and the smoke.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. I can't do the eyes, and I'm not gonna even try. But yeah, we're all for the most part wrestling fans. I know you're a little bit
sort of,
more
yeah.
old school, but you know the Undertaker.
Yeah, of course.
Dude's had a storied career over 25 years in the WWE. He was even in WCW before that. So he's been, I think, around since '91. So he's been at least WWE.
been killing it for a
91,
while.
So he,
Yeah.
no pun intended.
Nope.
So yeah, he great match. He went out, losing to Roman Reigns, and not that I want to make this too much about wrestling, but certain people feel certain ways about Roman.
Give
Hate
Roman
him.
a little more time, I would say, and Roman could be like a face of WWE. As of right now, like I'm not gonna lie, I like Roman Reigns, but he doesn't have the star power by any means that other big names have.
I'm gonna put a little plug in here. So if you guys want to find more about this stuff and what happened at WrestleMania,
Yes.
check out the Hurricane Rana Wrestling podcast here at 59 Media Studios. All right, so we want
Speaking
to touch
of
upon
dead.
that. Yeah. Speaking of dead, we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead.
Yes.
So for those that haven't seen the season 7 finale, we're going to put the spoiler warning up right now. Spoilers, folks.
Yep.
What do we think of it? I know there's been some people have some differing opinions on it. Rich,
I mean, are you talking about when we?
Let's start with
let's
the
start with the
guest.
guest. What did you think overall of the finale?
I liked it. I gave it about an 8. There was just a couple of scenes that I didn't like.
And
too
you were
much,
kind of
and,
mentioning you
know,
just don't like how soft, for lack of a better term, Rick has become, and you want to see more of that. Yeah, Don.
yeah,
No, no,
that
no.
crazy Rick that we all love.
With the beard and the
Yeah.
how many
Yep.
people have you killed? You
Yep.
know.
Biting
That's what I
some
wanna
dude's
see.
neck. Like, yeah,
Yep.
that's what you want to see.
Definitely.
At the same, actually, you and we were going back and forth messaging, and we both agreed on this though. Even though, like, we both wanted Rick to just kill that garbage picking woman so bad,
Yeah.
but even after everything happened, he did seem a little soft. The second that Negan had him and Carl on the ground, he's like, "You can kill my son right in front of me. You can
Yep.
cut off both of my hands, but like I told you, I'm gonna kill you. Not today." Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but I am going to kill you.
That was what we wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Like that, because that's like you just got sack.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to describe that.
You
'cause,
know, Negan likes that stuff too.
Yeah, yeah.
Beth, you're so right.
I
Hey,
just-
Carl looked right at him and he was like, Carl's like, "You're not gonna win. You're not gonna win." At the same note, guys, I do want to say this though. I love Negan as a character.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
Jeffrey Dean Morgan he nails it. He
Amazing.
nails it. And especially going off the comic book, and we always talked about this, all the cursing.
Yeah.
And how do you replace that? And you replace that with being a good character.
he was so
and
good.
like just the attitude is what replaces it.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was so good. You know, and I'm happy with the finale because honestly, the season as a whole,
Yeah.
I think was a bit lackluster. You know,
lot of
wasn't-
filler.
A lot of filler. It was kind of like this whole season was like a prequel to next season. And
Right.
It was,
But to that
They
point,
there's some
Started
good
out with a
stuff.
bang.
Some good stuff.
Right.
They
You
made
know,
it go out with a
that's-
bang.
They started out with a bang. That
Yeah.
beginning episode was amazing.
Yeah.
I'd
So
have
it's,
to say
it's
that-
like they were the bookends of a kind of mediocre season.
I was
You
gonna
know?
say the bread was bigger than the meat.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
I have never heard that, by the way.
It's a pretty good
No, it's a
analogy.
great analogy.
You know, So, what did you think of it though overall?
Overall, I was stoked. From the second the episode started, and it was giving me flashbacks.
Yeah, right from the beginning.
Of Sasha.
Yep.
Beth and I are looking at each other like
You know what's gonna happen.
she's like
I
in
knew
the process.
Sasha was going. What was it?
2 weeks ago, right?
A few weeks. No, not even anything to do with the show because she's got a primary role in the new Star Trek show.
Yeah.
So we knew I kind of figured that she was going.
The second that they hinted that one of
Yep.
your main characters is gonna die at the end of
Yeah.
this season, and there's not gonna be a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We knew where it was
And
going.
I'm so happy it didn't end with a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I'm happy they didn't do that like last season, because you felt justified for
See,
watching the season.
But from a storytelling standpoint, you always leave them wanting more. I feel like
I still want more.
I feel like but I feel like it's if they would have ramped it up a little bit more, I think it would have been like, okay, now I can't wait for the next season.
But I can't.
I still can't.
Negan standing
It's
there.
on.
Negan standing
Wow.
there and saying, "We're going to war," and like the whole time, like him, and you see his like army.
I love when he's like, I'm not gonna count this as swearing, but it's a goddamn tiger. I was like,
I like
sorry, I'm not gonna count it as
I like
cursing.
the closing scene when he's driving away and he's flipping the middle finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ballsy. Pretty bad. let me
So
tell
what
ya.
did we think of the Sheva the tiger animation?
I think it came
was
out awesome.
it was
Yeah,
it
wicked
was pretty good.
I think
Didn't
they've done good all
special
season,
effects,
right?
yeah.
They did pretty good with that. And as soon as I saw the tiger, I was like, oh damn, it's on.
I was like, I kept saying to Beth, I'm like, Dwight's gonna grab Negan for them.
Yeah.
Dwight's gonna do it right now, and then
Yeah.
you see him roll out, and I'm like, oh, see, remember we were talking? I'm like, I wish
Yeah.
Dwight would have just did it right then and there.
And
but-
and we knew like an episode or two before that when Carol got back into the mix that it was on. Like that was like the turning point where you know it's on.
Carol
When
rolled with the hit
fi-
squad.
Yeah.
I wanted Rick to shoot Eugene
Well,
when he made his little
I'll
thing.
put it this way. I'm not gonna no spoiler. We're gonna try to stay spoiler free. I forget. Don, do you read the comics?
I own the comics.
Okay,
yeah.
you do. So are you all caught up to where it goes?
No.
Okay.
No, no,
do you
no,
read
no,
the
no,
comics?
no.
Okay. So I'm going to try to keep this as
Yep.
spoiler free for those that just watch the show and don't read the comics. Eugene is going to play a big part of some of the storylines coming up.
Eugene plays a big part in the comics.
He
as a whole.
plays a huge role. So that's going to kind of what I like to think is the way the comics played. The way the comics jumped is from the point we are now. It jumps about 5 or 6 years, I believe, in the future.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a time gap of 5 years if they follow the comics. That next season is going to be a couple of years in the future from where we are now, and it's just going to be a whole long, drawn out war between the Hilltop,
yeah.
Alexandria, and Negan's crew and the
Yeah,
Saviors.
Saviors. Yep.
So I think and that's going to lead me to my next piece that we have right here.
Well, I think we need to talk about one more thing.
Oh,
We're not
okay.
moving past
Oh,
Walking Dead, are we?
Well, I was
no,
gonna
but-
jump on it too. There's more
Because
stuff
we're
I wanna
missing
talk
a
about.
big thing here is what we thought of Sasha's death.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Because that is like
I
that
loved
was
it.
the whole point of this season finale was
It was good.
the way
Yeah.
that she did it, the way that she went out. And if we talk about the previous episode where Eugene hands her the pill,
Yep.
and she's looking at it, she's like, "This is not what I asked for."
Yeah.
And coming to that reality of in the flashbacks to Abraham, I loved it. I love the flashbacks to Abraham and that story of what when he wanted to go and keep them safe and doing
Yeah.
what he had to do, and she did not want him to go. And she's got the iPod on. Eugene gets her the iPod,
Yeah.
and she's flashy. She's like in this, preparing herself for what she's about to do.
Yeah.
And you see that, and you just see it. And when he opens that coffin,
You knew it was on.
Well, that's a scene from the comics. It's not the same character.
No,
Yeah.
because she's
Right.
She's made up,
yep,
which caused the butterfly effect in the show. But I love that. I love that she did that. And I'm not gonna focus too much on it, but I watched this movie recently. It's on Netflix called The Discovery.
Yeah.
Where it's weird. Like these people, like when they die, they go to like a different version of themselves and get to change history or whatever. So when I'm watching Walking Dead and it keeps going to her flashback, I'm like, oh, is this? I know it wasn't changing history or anything,
Yeah.
but it was good to see Abraham back and just like listen to those little like, I know you don't care 2 nuggets of poop. What's going on? You're gonna kick yourself in the Tar Heel butt. I'm like, oh,
Did he say something
Abraham.
about? I forgot what he was saying about a beach. He was saying something. He's some weird.
I don't like it because I get sand in my crack.
stuff like that. Yeah, it's hilarious.
He is. But my question to you guys is, so earlier on, or maybe the episode before the season finale, Negan comes to Sasha and he's like, one of my birdies told me that Rick is planning something. Now, we never get to really find out, as far as the show goes, who does it. So it.
Well, I think that's a tell. Is the girl that the leader of the trash team?
Okay,
I
well,
think-
he
I
did.
think-
Okay, you solved it for me, but this is.
that's
I gotta explain where my brain went. So where my brain went with this was, I was like, well, it's gonna be somebody within the group, because I didn't even think the trash lady.
Yeah.
Until now that you're saying it, it makes complete
Yeah.
sense that it's a trash woman. But the girl, Enid, remember how when they found her, it was like just survive? So me, I start digging deep. I'm like, oh, just survive. She's a savior. They're sending her out on her own to play undercover role and report back to them the whole time. Maybe they have her, you know what I mean? Like, I just started going crazy with it. And she's always like kind of iffy on everything she does.
That's actually not a bad theory. I like
But,
that actually a lot.
Oh, and then the guy. Oh God, why is the name skipping me? The guy that Daryl can't stand, Negan's guy.
Dwight.
Dwight.
I like Dwight
What-
now.
Okay, so but what happened with Dwight in this episode? Because he's back with Negan. Like it was kind of because now he's gonna try to take Negan out from the inside, right?
Yeah, well, that was the plan. So, like, in
Yeah.
one sort of way, taking out the saviors from the inside. Like, he was gonna stop, like he did. He
Yeah.
knocked the trees down, stopped them there, like acted like
Yep.
this was something that the
Yep. Now
Alexandrians
it's
did.
to that point.
And then, as soon as he saw stuff go sideways, he was like, I'm gonna just play my role over here for
Well,
now.
and then did you notice the end with Daryl finding that little figure?
Yeah.
And he wrote, "Didn't know."
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's from Dwight saying,
Yes.
Hey, like I didn't know this was going to happen." And again, if he's not part of the overall group of saviors, where Negan's got his own plan and knows that Rick's already planning something, Dwight's caught in the middle and doesn't know that Negan knows.
Yep.
It's kind of like, okay,
And for
well,
people out there that don't like Dwight in the comic books, he plays a huge role. He's a big
Dwight is a great character in
He's
the
a
books.
great he's a great
And I have
character.
actually, like, last season, I really didn't like Dwight. I think Dwight's progression over this
Yeah.
season made him a very likable
This was his
character.
turning point.
Yeah.
This last episode was.
But
his turning
was
point.
it? So here, this is what I love about shows like this.
Okay.
Is that you
What we
can
got?
actually have these characters, and you're just like, oh, this guy is so vile, so like even like the governor at a certain point from a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
This guy's such a jerk. He's such an ass. And then you see some of his backstory and his daughter Penny, and you're like, wow, I
feel
can
for him a
see
bit, yeah.
how this
Yeah.
and it's just. It's all perspective, and I love that certain characters can be vilified, and it's only because of their actions and based on what they've gone through and their perspective on life.
And I mean, just like that perspective, it's all a point of perspective for the people who are working for the actually. Savior's a bad example. Woodbury, I'll use for an example.
Yep.
The people in Woodbury look at Rick's group like they're the bad guys. Like they're trying to like cause some sort of issues. It's always a point of view. Like, you know what I mean? Who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. Because no matter what, both ends can be justified. We're trying to protect our way of life, plain and simple. You guys are trying to come at us. And even though, like, because there's no society to judge, like, oh, nope, they're right. Rick and his group are 100%
There's no
right
law.
because they
Yep.
are,
no law, no rules.
But,
Yeah.
Think
That's
about
what's
it
really-
like when Rick first met Deanna and like all the crew there. Like to them, these guys are like the governor. Rick's in his group are like the governor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like Negan and the Saviors. They're these like this strong force coming in, and it's like
Overpowering.
Right?
and-
we don't know if we
and-
can trust
and-
it, but we
and,
have no choice.
Intimidating.
yeah.
Right, but Rick's character eventually comes through, and they get accepted, as opposed to instead of him leading by force and fear, he kind of like consults. And
Okay, so now what about the Michonne piece?
About,
That
like,
was with that fight on top of the tower.
I
That
knew
was-
100% they could not kill
No,
her off.
no. Now that was Andrea in the comics, wasn't it?
say that again. I missed that.
Yeah,
yes,
yes, it's 100% Andrea.
yeah. No, Michonne's taken over Andrea's
Yep,
story
so
arc.
in
from
the
Yeah.
comics, that was Andrea. I remember because as soon as I saw her face,
Yep.
like I remember Andrea having that same face in the comics. They got that down. They got that down pretty good.
I was a little disappointed because I look at Michonne as if she is a lethal badass killing machine, and to see this trash picking woman like actually like doing damage on Michonne was like upsetting to me. I'm like, I hold
They're
her
kind
so
of barbarian like though.
But to be fair, she got blindsided. She was looking through the scope of what was going on.
Yeah.
And then she realized that the trash folk had like
Yeah.
betrayed them. And when she turned around, she had a gun in her face. Like, you can't.
her badness comes with her sword a
Sword.
lot.
I
You know what I
agree.
mean? So
I agree.
It's not that I don't I think she's still a pretty bad woman for surviving that.
Yeah.
She's a pretty bad
Yeah.
woman. So.
I love Michonne's character.
Michonne
She's
is
great.
awesome. Swinging up around that katana. Okay, do we want to say anything else about the finale before I talk about what's coming on for season 8?
No. I'm just glad we get to touch on those last few points.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we get some pushback here. Danielle is not a Michonne fan.
Neither is Beth.
And you know what? To each their own. She's kind of the Wolverine of the team, if you will.
Yeah.
And again, I don't like Wolverine, you know. Well, actually, Daryl's more like the Wolverine, but all the girls love Daryl, so I can't really speak about him.
Real quick, before you guys think that there's going to be a Jesus and Daryl hookup? Do you think
We,
that's
we
what
were
the setup
we were
is?
talking about that. I don't know if you and I were talking
Jesus,
about that.
no.
Daryl.
So okay. So here's a quick thing. Daryl. Spoiler alert. Daryl's supposed to be gay.
Yeah, I remember that from like 3 or 4 seasons ago.
Daryl's supposed to be gay, and what's going to happen? Or they were saying because Jesus mentioned boyfriends at one time when he was talking with Maggie and I believe Sasha or whoever else.
It was just him and Maggie, I believe.
It was him and Maggie, and he said something about boyfriends. So Jesus is gay.
Yeah.
And they were thinking about, okay, Jesus is a badass character.
He is.
Like, in the comics, he's amazing. Wait until. So they're saying maybe put these two badass characters together because, again, personally for me, I don't care if you make Daryl gay. I don't care if he's straight.
He's still Daryl.
Not everybody has to be in a relationship. Daryl can just be that silent badass who's kind of like almost like asexual, who doesn't need to be in a
Okay,
relationship.
but now with Carol coming back into the fold,
Yeah, I think that
What
those
is
two are
that
good
kinda-
together.
I always felt that Daryl was in love with Beth.
See, I disagree.
I didn't think so. I thought that was more of a Big Brother thing.
That's
All
what I
right.
think too.
That's how I felt.
Well,
That-
then I can see that
That
too.
brings
then.
in a good point, though, about, again, we talk about rules and law. Beth is a 16, 17-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Daryl's a 40-something-year-old man. Like, would they really be, like, it would be taboo, but again, in the zombie apocalypse, how does that play out?
Anything could happen.
Oh, both Beth and Danielle saying the feed's freezing up a little bit, so...
Yeah, it's doing it on
We apologize.
all
Yeah.
of us as well.
So, hopefully, it is freezing up. Maybe we're just having connection issues.
There we go.
It's raining, so
Yeah,
back.
We're freezing up a little bit, so...
We just dropped
yeah.
down.
Well, for those listening to the audio version of this...
Hey!
we'll keep going.
Yeah, we're gonna and the video. We'll repost the video if this freezes up. I'm gonna rewatch the video. If it's freezing up during the replays, I'll save the new video and upload it.
Okay.
But it might just be the weather. It might be it's thundering out here. You guys might have heard that before.
Yeah.
That could be interrupting the
Thunder,
feed.
perfect for a horror theme.
Yeah. We're back. Yeah, it's lightning out. It's thundering out.
That's it.
So we'll see. But real quick, I just want to talk about The Walking Dead before we get into the
Okay.
horror side.
Yes.
Okay, so via the Hollywood Reporter, we can hear the thunder again. The Walking Dead officially entered new territory on the All-Out War, a massive arc from Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adlard's comic books. The creative forces behind the scenes of the apocalyptic series insist that there's no risk of the show outpacing the events of the ongoing comics. So there was some thought that because
Because
they're already
that Game of Thrones realm.
Yes.
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But as of right now, there's no sign of the books stopping anytime soon. So the current Walking Dead arc takes place, the one that we're into now in the comic books takes years, as I mentioned, several years in the future. And it includes a lot of different characters. I don't want to spoil who's in and who's not in it for the people that only watch the show.
Yeah.
But Scott Gimple has said that the AM series might stop down to focus on some of the events from that time jump. So if it is a 5-year time jump, then when we start The Walking Dead,
Good.
they might be doing flashbacks.
It's good. You know why? Because it lets the comics get ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
So that way they
Which
have
we
more
need.
source material and they can be more careful with the story arc. So it makes sense.
and
And it's actually really good because think of what goes on with Game of Thrones if we're going to
think
compare
about
the two.
Kirkman having to write both of these, or
I
be
know.
involved in both of these, and having to think about. Okay,
And then,
how do I manage this versus this?
And Fear.
You know, yeah.
Don't forget
and
we
fair.
have that
And fair,
going on.
Yeah. So
well, Scott Gimple, or actually this is Robert Kirkman, said, I don't know if anyone sat down to do the math, but if the show is gaining on the comic book, it's at a very slow pace. We're expanding storylines, so every now and then we zip through the comic book, and then we slow down for a while and add a bunch of stuff that's not in the comics. There's not any danger of that happening in any way, and that's in reference to pulling pulling a Martin and doing the Game of Thrones where it's already past what's been written. So,
All right.
so that's just a little something. Let's talk a little bit about horror movies now. Let's segue. Actually, time out. Before we do that, Don, we have a tournament thing going on.
Oh, forgot about.
Oh, nice.
Almost forgot about the
Hey,
tournament.
that worked.
Yeah, so we've been
don't-
doing some live Facebook polls. We're going to keep running them all this week too. I'll be putting them up probably 3 to 4 nights. So if you're watching or if you're a fan of the Free Your Geek podcast page on Facebook, keep an eye on that. We'll be doing some live videos where you'll be able to vote on either Team Wonderweb, which is Spider-Man and Wonder Woman, or as I like to call it, we call it Team Bruce.
Yep.
God, you can say it, Team.
Team Bruce.
But I've decided to take the name of Team Bat Hulk instead. Team Bruce is cool.
No.
Well,
I'm
for-
sorry.
for the voting
I'm sorry.
purposes.
Just Hulk with a Batman mask just sounds
Angry bat. Bat
says
smash.
Okay. So anyway, just be on the lookout for that. We're gonna
It's
give it probably
lame.
another week.
Lame.
Actually, speaking of next week, a little quick note to our people listening and watching, and we don't know if we're gonna be in this studio next week. There's some stuff that's moving on around, so we might not have a show next week. But we'll be back shortly. Pay attention to our Free Your Geek Facebook page.
Yeah.
We'll be letting you know of everything that's going on there. But now let's get into horror. This is the big thing. This is what we want to spend the most of our time on. I'm going to kind of turn it over to you guys first. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys start it off. Let's just start. What was the first horror movie you've ever seen? We're going to start with Rich. Do you know what the first horror movie you ever saw was?
The Exorcist, the
Ooh.
original.
Nice.
And how old were you when you saw that?
Say about 12 or 13.
Were you scared out of your?
Really scared.
Okay.
A lot.
think that-
Between that and like Salem's Lot was another
I
one.
think that movie scared everybody back then.
Yeah.
That was
Still does. It's still pretty scary.
yeah,
I mean, you know.
it's out there.
Don, how about you? What was the first one you remember seeing?
100% first horror movie I ever saw, I do remember, and it was Child's Play, and I was actually younger than a teenager because I still had a My Buddy, and My Buddy
Scared the crap out of you.
got thrown out that
Yep.
day.
Yep.
That day.
Yep.
And I had bunk beds, and I was petrified to sleep on the bottom bunk, so I would be on the top bunk if I wasn't on the floor in my parents' room. So,
And you were 24 years old.
He's like, that was
Hey.
last night.
come on.
Beth, I'm gonna sleep on the top bunk.
So Child's
Oh, my
Play.
goodness.
KB, how about you?
Friday the 13th, part 3.
Nice.
I was probably like 10.
In 3D.
Wow.
I don't think
I didn't
number
see it in
3.
3D,
I don't
but-
think 3 was in 3D.
Yeah,
It
part
was.
3 was.
That was the
Yeah.
first one that was in 3D,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because of the
Oh.
mask and the
Yeah.
whole.
I defer to you guys.
yeah.
What do you got?
Mine was probably one of the I don't even know which Friday the 13th, but I remember being like 8 years old and watching it on the USA Network. So
Yes.
it
That's
wasn't
different. Yeah.
as effective because
Yeah.
You didn't get to see the boobies.
right.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Well, you know,
I mean,
you,
that's-
you put it on channel 2
Well,
and
And
it's all the
go squiggly
fuzz.
lines, yeah.
Yeah, I think
you're
I think for
squinting,
me,
trying to figure it
I
out.
think for me, the Friday the 13th when I was watching it too, it wasn't on a network like that. It was on like HBO or something.
Yeah.
So I, as a young kid, I got to see it for what it really was.
Mine was on. I watched the VHS. Yeah.
Wow.
Now here's my next question to you guys. Let's talk about we've talked about there's a lot of different subgenres worth of horror movies. So you have kind of like the torture porn, you have the slasher, you have the suspense ones.
and then got hybrids of that stuff too.
Right, exactly. So I don't want to ruin your final countdown. So if it is in your final countdown, feel free to not answer this question. But your favorite horror movie of all time, not death, because we're going to be talking about that in the final countdown. But do you have a favorite of all time that you can, or at least one of your favorites, if you can't choose?
Well, it's not. It's like kind of like a horror / action movie. From Dusk Till Dawn. Great movie.
That is a great.
If I could swear on this show, I would.
Can you say the
Cheech
letter?
Martin. No. Pea lovers, we got apple pie pea. Like, you know, you go.
Yep. Cheech Marin.
Wait, that also just sounded bad. I don't mean urine. I mean the other word for kitty cat.
Okay.
Oh man. But
Yeah, From
just-
Dusk Till Dawn's always been one of my all-time favorite movies. I love
high.
Quentin Tarantino. I love Robert Rodriguez. You know, it starts out as an action movie, turns into a vampire movie. It's great.
That's actually just one of my favorite movies of all time. Period. No genre like specific. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I want to jump in real quick before you guys answer. Russell mentioned his first horror movie he saw was Halloween 6 in the theaters. He was 9, and it was about 1996.
I gotta say, my boy Russell. Russell, were you Michael Myers for Halloween last year or the year before? Because he's creepy.
Wait, Austin Powers?
Did I say Austin Powers? I said Michael Myers. Oh, yeah, baby. Shagged her rotten. But no, Russell, I usually see Russell post pictures of him dressed as Michael Myers on Halloween, and for Easter for some reason he's into it.
No, I mean I love the horror. So, favorite.
I go a completely different way. You know how you went to the movies and see Ghost in the Shell and you kind of had no idea what
Yeah.
it was? I went to the movies to see something and I missed it by like 15 minutes, whatever it was. And I'm looking up at the titles and there's this movie called The Ring. So I had no idea what this movie was. No idea. Never saw a trailer, never saw anything. I sat in this movie theater and was horrified from what I saw. So, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I know I'm going to see a horror movie. No,
No.
I'm just going to see this movie. I sat there and that movie creeped me out so bad. I can't say, like, I to be honest with you guys, I can't sit and tell you, oh my God, like any of these are my specific favorite horror movie. But I remember going to a movie theater, being horrified by it, and like usually, like, you know what I mean, like when you watch a movie with people, you're not really like, you know, you get jumpy or whatever. But I was terrified of that movie, seeing it in the movie theater.
I'm sorry. I want to say something else.
No.
But finish with your thought.
But I just want to say this though, because even now, like I'll watch movies, like horror movies, and I'm always with Beth. You know what I mean? So I'm not really like that afraid. I jump here and there, and it makes her more afraid when I jump. But the last horror movie I watched completely by myself in a pitch black house and was viciously afraid was the movie Sinister. With
That's mine. That's
Oh,
mine.
okay, that
That's
won't
mine. No,
talk
no, no.
about-
Go for it. Go for it.
No, just the part when he's walking around the living room and he turns and he can't see it,
Yep.
but that kid is right in his face. I don't think I slept too well that night. it was hard, you know.
Well, I just want to point out, Danielle mentioned in the comments, she says she wished she could send a picture because Robert Englund signed her leg. And I just want to ask, did he have the glove on when he did it? Because that would sound extremely painful. And Beth said 7 days, which is also a great line. Russell met Mike Myers back in February, had him sign his movie quality Halloween 6 mask, which is awesome.
I'm telling you, we got some good people with us right now.
Yeah, I love these comments. But
Yeah, this is
KB,
awesome.
we already know what mine is, so let's
for
go
me,
with yours.
honestly, and it's it's more the concept of the movie than the movie itself, was Hostel. Because
Great
Hostel
movie, yeah.
can really happen. You go into backpacking out somewhere in some country that you don't know, and you're staying in these hostels. It could happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the scariest part of those of the Hostel franchise, and Hostel 1 was my favorite, but I think the scariest part is that Hostel 2, and I swear to God, this was the scariest thing to me, is you see all these millionaires, right? And the online auction is
How
just,
fast?
you just feel something crawl up the back of your neck like this could really be happening out there. Bill Gates could have some craziness going on. You know what I mean? Like you don't know, because these are rich and powerful people that they're not Hollywood people. They're executives. They're people that you
I'm
don't
sure
know
Trump
who
has
they
that
are.
thing going on right now.
That you don't know who they are. And this twisted world could exist, and it's scary. It is it's the realism of it. Is
Yeah.
what scares the crap.
I won't even go to like a foreign country
Yeah,
now
scares the
because of
crap
that
out of me.
movie.
Yep.
I'll go to England because they talk English, but I won't go to like somewhere
Slovakia,
where,
or,
you know,
yeah. But
Like
so
Germany
Hostel
or
for me,
whatever.
that's my favorite one. Yeah.
Okay, before we get into our next thing, Rich, there's a comment on the board for you here on the Facebook Live video. Do you ever plan to return to a career in music?
I'm not sure. Maybe if he moves back here, we'll do something.
There you have it. Breaking news on the Free or Gear podcast.
This just in.
The other thing I want to talk about really quickly with horror is
Yep, we gotta go.
the value of 3D in horror. I think has way more value than any other genre.
Besides sci-fi.
Well, it's pretty close. If
Yeah.
you think about it, the 3D started with horror, right? They did that first. Think of if My Bloody Valentine, the 3D version.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, the new-
fantastic.
Throws the pick and it goes.
It's fantastic. Think about the things on Resident Evil we'd consider like action horror.
Yeah.
But think about the things we've seen. Horror movies are where it's at for 3D.
Final Destination.
Final Destination in 3D.
The race car
The race car one? Oh my God, I remember seeing that in the theater. It's like that car. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing.
King Kong was even good, like the new King Kong. We saw
Yeah.
it in 3D and it was amazing.
Yeah, so I think it's the one place where you really should see it in 3D if you can, whatever the horror movie is.
Yep.
So just throwing that out there. So we moving on to the countdown.
Yeah, because we're already
Okay.
like more than half an hour in.
So we try to speed up our
Yeah,
countdown a
so-
little bit.
Why don't we make it a couple hours?
I would love
Tonight,
to,
we-
but
we
we're trying
only
to
go
keep it
an
about an hour roughly. But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go into our final
You
segment.
know what? We froze a little bit. We should go a little longer.
That's fine.
Hour and a half.
Yeah.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
that everybody else has like lives and other responsibilities. I have nothing, so
Real quick question though.
yeah.
What made Sinister your favorite?
I don't. It was just creepy. It was just super creepy and just like, there was another one too, Insidious, which was amazing too. Those were my
Yep.
With like the Ghost World,
yeah, like that was crazy. Like those are my two favorites.
The Conjuring.
Another great one. Another great one. See, I didn't even think of that one.
You know what I wanted? Like, this is what happened for a while. I mean, I felt like in the 80s, we got crammed with amazing horror movies. And then they, like, kind of fell off. Or
Hellraiser.
The Hellraiser franchise. I actually watched...
The first ones. The later ones, too.
Well, I watched a really creepy one that takes place in, like, a big, huge house party, and everyone just starts getting picked off. Revelation.
Yeah.
Hellraiser Revelation. It was pretty good.
Alien. I mean, it's
Oh.
sci-fi, but it's borderline for a lot of people.
Covenant. You guys see the preview for that?
Looks
Ooh.
fantastic.
But and then all of a sudden, like recently, we started getting hit with the Conjuring movies, the Insidious movies, and then all the beautiful remakes.
Evil Dead.
We're talking about the remake, right?
Yep.
That was so good.
Yep.
Oh man.
I think music actually adds a lot to horror movies too. It's like
Yeah.
if you think about it, Insidious, the whole, tiptoed through the tulips, that added such a
Creepy.
craziness to that movie. And then the other one that I saw that everyone, like a lot of people hated, It Follows,
Yeah.
was an amazing movie.
I loved It
And
Follows.
I loved It Follows.
Yeah. I don't-
Worst STD ever.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
But I mean, the music alone in
would
that
know.
movie is crazy. It's like that techno-y weird stuff, and it like goes so well with the movie.
You get a vibe. You get a
Yeah.
vibe that
Yeah.
surrounds the film. Yeah.
I loved that movie because it made you think it took place in the 80s, yet everyone had cell phones.
Yeah.
It gave you us an alternate reality.
Kind of like Gotham.
Gotham.
Kind of like that.
Well, anyway, we're off topic. Yeah, we should get
Yeah.
on to a countdown.
All right.
All right, you guys want to do that now?
Yeah, we'll do
Yeah,
that now.
yeah.
Jeffrey doesn't control the show anymore.
Yeah, apparently, like, dude, I'm trying to keep us to an hour, man.
The Red Bull controls the show, brother.
The energy drinks control
Hey,
the show.
Listen, you have a wife, you
Mountain
have a fiance,
Dew, Red
you have,
Bull, Mountain Dew Kickstart, water.
See, Deb knows that I'm here, and she's fine with that. you
Well,
know?
that's what I say. You have a wife, you have a fiance, you have a wife. You all have people to go home to and other responsibilities.
And they're all
And we
here
wanna
with us.
That's why you want to stay.
This is why we drink this kind of stuff.
I'm gonna go.
Countdown.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna go home and hop on Netflix. And, all right, next week, no energy drinks for either of you guys.
Dazzler, why are you being like that?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go into our final segment. We call it the final countdown.
It's the final countdown. The final countdown. Yeah. Whoa.
I just want to say thank you, Deb, for putting that sad face and sticking up for me. I appreciate it, buddy. So, and actually, Beth agrees with me. No more energy drinks, you jerks. So, all right, our topic on the final countdown. We got to figure out which. Do we want to start with Rich? Do you want to
start
start?
with the guest, man.
No, I won't
That's
start.
tradition.
He doesn't want to start.
Son.
Last
I'll
week,
start.
okay, so we're going to start with our guest, and we're going to work our way down the line, and we're going to do our top 3 favorite horror movie deaths or kills, or whatever scene might be. It's very open to interpretation.
Okay, cool.
So, Rich, what is your number 3?
My number 3, great movie. The director's from Boston.
Nice.
It stars the guy who played Jason Voorhees,
Yep.
playing Victor Crowley. Hatchet.
Hatchet.
There is a scene in there where he calls it the pop top. And he basically takes one of his victims and he holds them from like the top jaw and the bottom jaw, and the camera pans around and he just rips his whole head right off. And
So
you
like-
see
like
the tongue
alligator
flapping
style.
around inside. Yep.
So that's
one
very-
of the
that's-
greatest kill scenes.
Very
out
gruesome.
there. Yeah.
Very gruesome.
Wait till you hear my number one.
What is it?
I said, wait till you hear my number
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Not that Adam Green's watching this or anything, but shout out to him. He's a great director.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, do you know him personally?
I don't know him personally. I've
should.
met him a couple
And
times. So
next time you do, slide him one of our cards and be like, hey, we talked about you on the show.
I will.
So that's your number 3. We're going to go to the Don. What's your number 3?
All right, so this death scene. Beth wouldn't even let me finish talking about this death scene at the house.
They're gonna turn us off when they hear my number one. So,
So this movie is I can't even think of what Saw it is. I want to say like Saw 6. This is when
Saw's had some gruesome kills.
Jigsaw is no longer in the picture, and the police officer Hoffman kind of takes over the reins, and we get Chester from Lincoln Park and his neo-Nazi friends. He's got his girlfriend and his friends, and they're at the what is it called, like junkyard, and he has Chester super glued to the seat with the car running over one of his friends' like head under the tires, and he's like, all you gotta do is lean over and like pull the key out, and you and your friends will be all right. And he's just going to town, ripping the flesh off of his back, trying to get it. And then the timer goes off, and boom, the car drops down, totally demolishes his friend's face. Then attached to the back of the car by chains to his jaw and arms, that guy gets his stuff like just ripped off. Then he like slams into his girlfriend, and he ends up flying out through the windshield and ends up getting killed. It was horrifying.
4 for the price of 1, right?
Yeah, that's it. Gets all of them. Boom, 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 boom.
So this is interesting because you both had yours were gruesome. So you rank yours based on the gore level. Is that what I can?
I do, yeah.
Is it?
But
I'm just curious.
No. I mean, if it's top deaths, I mean, I know you're probably gonna give like an emotional like character.
damn right I
driven.
am.
I know you are.
Jeff's all heart. Toy Story made him
he
cry.
always
So
does it.
I like the storytelling aspect.
Okay.
So great number 3, KB.
my number 3 was Hostel 2, the Bathory. So the girl hanging upside down in the scythe. So this older woman, again, one of these rich people, is laying nude in a bathtub. And she has the young girl who's probably in like her early 20s, right?
Yep.
College,
Yep.
hanging upside down naked, screaming and crying for her daddy, peeing herself. And you have this woman with this giant scythe, and she's just scraping her back and just letting the blood fall on her. And she's like, oh, the blood. And it's just like, oh my God. And she just keeps doing that to this poor girl. And then once she's had enough of just, you can't even, well, wait till you see here my number 1.
Nope.
So anyway, but once she's kind of had enough, I got enough blood, just slice the throat, and the blood just goes all over the place. And it's the sexuality, it's the craziness, it's the, like I said, the whole concept of how Hostel works.
Yeah.
You put that all together, I'm like, I'm not gonna forget that scene.
Ever.
That's how I did mine. Am I gonna forget that scene? So that's my number 3. Jay Free's like, how do I follow up with that?
Caveat for mine. Like I said, I told these guys earlier, I might get raked across the coals by these guys. I might get raked across the coals.
You know what Jay Free's number 3 is? Bambi's mother dies.
I thought it was gonna be like
Okay, first of all, you should have been here last week because those were our Disney deaths. So you're a week behind.
Was it when Gargamel like stepped on a Smurf?
Yes, that's it. He said, "Oh boy, do I feel blue."
Got him.
Sorry. No, my first pick, my number 3, is a 1996 movie, and it's when I first actually kind of rediscovered horror movies. Earlier, I mentioned, I used to watch the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets on USA when they have it on Friday the 13th or the horror around Halloween they'd have it on network TV. This is the first one I actually saw in a theater. One of the first ones I've seen in a theater. It was in 1996. It's a girl that dies. Her name is Casey Becker. She was home alone, and she keeps receiving multiple phone calls, and they don't have caller ID in 1996. Do you know the line that he asks? He says,
What's your favorite scary movie?
He absolutely says that. And then Ghostface plays.
Oh,
a game
Scary
with her.
Movie 1.
Played by
KB,
Carmen
you're not welcome next week. Ghostface plays the game with her, ends up killing her boyfriend. Kind of like a Saw before the Saw. You need to do this in order to save his life.
Yep.
Then Ghostface kills her, and her parents arrive as he's dragging her body out the back, and she's dying, and she's still on the phone, and the parents pick up the phone and hear her dying.
Yeah.
And they end up going. The father tells her to go to the neighbor's house. She goes out, and she sees her daughter hanging from the tree. That was the opening scene
Yeah.
to Scream in 1996. why it made the list. I was 14 at the time, so like to me, like
Yeah,
the
the crap
acting,
out of you.
the acting wasn't like superb, but it was like, oh my god, this is so like different than what I'm accustomed to seeing, you know, on the USA Network and stuff like that. And it was a very twisted. Imagine coming home to see like your daughter or your child is dying, and you're as a parent, somebody's killing your kid, and they're dying in front of you, and you can't do anything about it. To me, that's one of the scariest things, most scary things.
It
of all.
is. It's
You know what I have to say though?
Good
Like,
perspective.
You just by you like letting me know like exactly like when that movie came out. That's the type of stuff that they pushed on us in the 90s.
Yep.
Like we got that. We got
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I was just thinking of that.
I was in love with
Urban
Jennifer.
Legend.
I was in love with Jennifer Love Hewitt
Yeah,
back in the
they
day.
and the whole thing with those both of the franchises right there is they kind of sold us on like those teen characters. Like you know, I can't knock Scream. I really can't. Like Scream
Wes
ones-
Craven.
Yeah,
You
I was gonna
can't,
say like that
you know?
was. But I feel like their selling point on Scream was like Nev Campbell, and we got Matthew Lillard. Like we got
Right.
I can't even, the other guy who knew everything about horror movies. He's a real like awesome geek. Like he
It wasn't Seth Green, was it?
no. But-
Who was in that?
Regardless, even
Jamie Kennedy.
that's exactly who
Yeah.
it was, Jamie Kennedy. But and then on the other end, we had like Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar,
The
and
teen heartthrobs.
Yeah, that's what they sold us on those movies. Like that was more important than
We bought it.
Yeah, we did. We
So-
definitely did. But yeah, that's kind of I don't
Yeah.
even know. I just wanted to talk.
Yeah,
like
that's fine.
you reminded me of.
I
like,
appreciate
what
it.
we got in the
I like how we
90s.
can
Well,
kind
I mean,
of.
two of the other movies too was The Faculty.
Yep.
Yes.
Faculty
I
was
love
another
The
one.
Faculty,
Yep, that's a
but
good.
that-
Robert
see, that was
Rodriguez, you know.
Was Usher?
Yeah,
Is
he
that
was
the one
great.
Usher was in?
Yeah.
Yeah, Usher was in it. He
And
was
then
the football
Disturbing
player.
Behavior with Katie Holmes.
Love
Yep,
that movie.
another
That
good one.
I love that one.
You
I
know,
love
yeah.
that one.
Yep.
So Rich, what's your number 2, man?
This was from part 2 of a great bunch of movies. Wrong Turn 2.
Ooh,
The
I
death
loved Wrong
scene
Turn.
at the very beginning when the girl's actually going out trying to find a job, like going to talking to her editor or something like that, manager on the phone, and she gets lost. She hits one of the people at the very beginning, and then she goes over to him and he starts biting her face and everything. She turns around, and just as she turns around, there's another guy standing there with his hand out holding her head, and then there's an axe that just comes right down and splits her right in two, and both parts of her body just fall.
Just flap over.
Yep, just like
Like
fall.
splitting a banana peel.
Yep.
He's like, where's the emotion?
No, I'm
Some
just
great
amazed that
stuff.
you're-
Come
you're-
on.
I think you need to be cut off, dude.
Oh, that's a good one.
So that's a great number 2, Don.
So realistically, like again, like death scenes that like you guys are talking about that really, really stick out and that will probably like I would never ever want to go out like this. Like for instance, like the last one I spoke of. But I'm gonna stick with the same franchise on this, okay? In the Saw movie, the torture rack where they have the dude just set up on, you know, and each one of those mechanical things, like as you see limb by limb break, and the dude's like crying his eyes out, trying to save this kid who, you know, like we've seen like in that, which is I believe Saw 3, he's trying to like do, you know, like he was like picking and choosing like who gets to stay alive or whatever, and they're trying everything to free this kid, and they just can't. And then after, you know, both arms and legs and everything's broke, and you just see it start clicking on his head, you're like, oh, it's a wrap, you know. But I will never forget that. I was mortified, like. I would never, ever want to experience that pain. I'd rather be the guy who grabbed the key and took the shotgun to the face. You know?
At least it's quick.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, those Saw movies, like,
I think
it's
that
complete
scene
torture.
actually is worse than the scene where the guy's like sitting there with his arms and legs tied and like getting stretched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather
That's
have
like more
that
like
done
medieval
to me
torture.
than the ones where each bone is snapping into.
It's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
that's fun. KB, number 2.
You know, I'm going more mainstream here.
Okay.
Going sci-fi horror. Don's gonna love me for this one. Resident Evil Laser Grid.
First one or second time?
First one.
Nice.
Laser Grid in Resident Evil. You know, the Red Queen. You're all going to die down here. Just yeah. So to explain the Laser Grid for people who haven't seen that movie. So basically, the whole concept of Resident Evil is there's an underground research facility. I'm not going into all the details. So this team is sent to figure out what happened, why everybody dies down there. They go in, and there's this hallway to shut off the main computer that shut the facility down and killed everybody. So they're going through this tunnel, and it's all glass, right? And they're walking through this team of 4 people.
Yep.
The doors shut behind them and in front of them, and they're trapped in this room. All of a sudden, a laser beam just comes across, takes off one of their hands,
Yep.
and takes off another woman's head straight off. Falls. That's only the first round. So now there's 2 left. The commander and one of the other guys.
Yep.
Second round, beam comes. So they're thinking, oh, this beam's just going to go straight. We're going to jump out of the way. So one guy tries to jump. He gets cut right in half. He falls apart. Now the commander, he jumped and like put himself parallel with the ceiling, so the beam didn't get him. Just his knife got cut in half. So the beam it just cut his knife in half. So I'm like, oh boy, because you know now it's on. Like this last one, he's standing there, and oh my god, the beam comes and it's like, you're not outsmart me this time. Turns into a big net of laser and just cuts him into all these little squares. Like there was no getting out of it. And then the other guy on the outside was trying to get the door open. He gets it open and he's like, you want to go down there? You off? It's off. You sure it's off? Like, again, memorable. Like, you're not going to forget a scene like that laser grid. Like, when you see it, he's like, oh, and just...
And they were showing, like, cubes of his whole
Falling
body
off,
and
falling
face
apart.
and everything like
and
that.
the look on Alice's face as she's looking through the glass. And the laser room is back in the last movie, which was kind of cool. But it's just her.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. But, that was my number 2. Another, and I forgot to do an honorable mention because my other number 2, I had another thing I was going to put at number 2. That was Green Inferno, but I'm going to leave Green Inferno alone. I'm leaving it alone. I'm leaving it alone.
Good.
You don't
I'm
have
glad
time.
you did.
I'm leaving it alone. So, Jay Free, your number.
I just want,
I just don't want to gross Jay Free out now. I'll wait till number
well, I
1.
appreciate that.
All right.
Okay, my number 2 is the most recent movie on my list. It's from 2002, and a character by the name of Noah Clay dies in this movie. And it's a movie that Don already mentioned called The Ring. So The Ring, Noah is the father of Aiden. It's Rachel's ex-boyfriend, and he's trying to help her discover the whole thing of what's going on with the 7 days. Rachel watches the videotape. He ends up watching the tape himself. With him and Rachel together, they discover that Samara, the girl that from the video and the one saying 7 days, was actually thrown into the well by her adoptive mother, Anna. Anna committed suicide shortly afterwards. Later on, toward the end of the movie, Rachel's knocked into the well and finds Samara's body. And then as they take her body out and call the police and whatnot and hopefully put all that, Noah mentions that the deadline has passed, 7 days have passed, and Rachel hasn't died.
Yeah.
So they assume the curse is over. Fast forward to the end of the movie, Noah's sitting there watching TV, or turns it off, the TV turns back on, and he sees the well. Samara climbs out of the flippin' well through the screen. Rachel realizes this because Aiden's nose starts bleeding. She realizes that he's still cursed and that the reason she was spared was because she made a copy of the tape and made somebody else watch it. So she rushes to Noah's place, turns the chair around, and his face is all contorted. It was so disgusting and so memorable to me because the curse, just when you think it was over, it was another twist. And it was I just think it was a unique concept at the time for in American movies. It's obviously a remake of Japan's Ring film. But it's definitely, a great death scene in even though we don't really see him die per se.
You got the feeling that was what you needed.
But you know what I mean? That leaves that a little bit more up to the imagination. What exactly happened and how, obviously it's Samara did it, but to kind of leave that piece up to your imagination, I think it lets it run wild a little bit more. And how gruesome was that? So that's my number 2.
That was awesome.
Moving on. Yeah, it was awesome. And I just want to say what's up to Jonathan right now that said, what's up, Jay Free and the Don? Jonathan! But we want to go to our number 1 pick, and we'll go up to Mr. Rich. What is your number 1 pick for the top 3 horror movie?
Another opening scene in a movie. Ghost Ship.
Ooh, I know what he's talking about. Oh, I was thinking of that too. I was going to use that scene. I'm glad I didn't. I love that scene.
Go for it, dude.
It's just a bunch of people on a boat, like kind of like the Titanic, and they're all starting to dance along with music and everything. And then out of nowhere, this wire just comes and it just cuts everybody into different pieces and stuff. And they just show this little girl dancing with this guy,
Luckily, she
and
was
like she
shot.
looks up in the air. And
It was
like,
the captain. She
yeah.
was dancing with the captain
Yep,
of the ship.
and the captain.
She's
Yep.
traveling alone.
And she just felt blood dripping down on her, looked up, and that's when his whole face and head falls down right off onto
And then you
the
see
ground.
everybody trying to put their
Yep,
guts back
yep,
in. And
yep,
I'm like,
yep.
oh my God.
It's an amazing opening scene.
Oh.
Like, that's the thing.
That
like,
movie
with
caught
horror
a lot
movies.
of, that movie caught a lot of crap too.
Yeah.
Like a lot
yeah.
of people are like, oh, this is a bad movie. I thought it was a great horror movie.
But to your
Yeah.
point,
I
point,
mean,
Rich.
to me, it's like, I just think, like, a horror movie should have a hit from the beginning.
Yep.
And
Get you
not
hooked.
have, like, so much drama.
Sets
and then
the
have,
tone.
Yeah.
It sets the tone. For
Yeah,
the
I
movie.
mean, then you know what you're into.
Your
know? I mean,
expectation of that
yeah.
movie should be
Yeah.
set in the first scene.
I mean, I hate watching a horror movie and then the last
up.
half an hour is great. It's like I'm never gonna watch that movie again
Yeah.
because of that. You know, it's like I want to get hit from the start.
Yep.
Go a little bit drama with characters and stuff. And
Yeah,
then
you gotta
get
have
hit
some
at the
story.
end
Yeah.
too, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get something for the viewer to kind of invest in it. And
Yep.
yeah, I'm with you. Great number one.
Don, you're number one.
I'm gonna do. My number one was the Green Inferno. I'm completely switching it up. I'm changing the game right
Wow.
now. Completely changing
And
the
you,
game.
and we're probably talking about the same scene.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Eyes, tongue.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
100%.
that-
Yeah. But you said something perfect. That's gonna give me my whole number one. You said that we didn't really see what happened to Noah in the ring, but my number one is not a death scene. It's a movie. My number one is the movie Seven. And all of the
Yeah.
deaths within Seven, which we don't really see.
We're gonna let
any
Don
of
cheat
them.
like I usually do.
Yeah.
I'm totally cheating. Think of all the torturers, like the poor guy at Gluttony who gets overfed
Yep.
and gets fed the plastic. The most gruesome one in that is Lust, the prostitute who gets annihilated. Sloth. Think of what it takes for like all this like raunchy, disgusting stuff they put in that monster of a man because like they tell you about all of his charges. The girl who took the sleeping pills. That happens in real life. And then, like the scumbag attorney who had to cut off a pound of flesh, which I don't know.
Greed? Was
understand.
that greed?
That was greed.
Greed.
I would just cut like one of my butt cheeks off, but he went right for the love handle.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like certain things. But that
I got a nice
movie-
butt. I'm not getting rid of that.
Yeah, he cuts off Gwyneth Paltrow's head and puts it in a box. And
What's in the
cleverly-
box?
What's in the box? I envy you. And then that was it.
Detective Mills.
That movie
Mills
was
and
that movie was
Somerset.
mind blowing. That movie had me on the edge of my seat the whole time.
That movie as a whole, if we got to see all of the murder scenes, would probably top anything that I said. The killings that I said were very creative and technically put together, but to see the psychoticness behind about what he did in the movie Seven and how he was very calculating, like with everything he did, made that extra creepy. The fact that he just came out of nowhere and it was Kevin Spacey at the end
Yeah.
was a little disappointing, but it didn't matter because of everything that happened in that movie and how each person died.
I love how he walks up, detective. He's holding his hands like this, and he's like,
I think you were looking for me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, the movie Seven as a whole had the best not seen on camera kill scenes ever. That's it.
That's your number two.
I sped it up for you, pal.
No. That's fine. We're
I
going.
see
We're
you
going.
tapping the screen.
We're going into overtime.
That's number one.
That's number one.
I'm sorry. That's number one. See, I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to
Okay.
run all this stuff. All right, great. That's a great number one. And I was considering that when making my list. It was my honorable mention.
Man.
Wow, honestly,
Yeah.
nice.
For real. KB, you're number one.
My number one. If you have small children in the room, please have them leave
Yeah,
because
let's do this. KB is gonna go into detail. We're not gonna swear, but
I'm
we are
going
gonna
cult.
be. We're gonna be
I'm
talking.
going very cult here.
we're gonna be talking some graphic stuff.
Rich is probably like, I wonder what it
He's
is.
not gonna
To
swear.
be honest with you, I haven't even seen Green Inferno, and Eli Roth's one of my
Okay.
favorite directors.
Yep.
So.
Okay, here we go. I'm going really cult.
Okay.
There was a movie back in the 70s
Oh, that.
that was redone in 2010
Yep.
called I Spit on Your Grave.
Ah, yes.
Okay, so this is going real cult here, okay? So The 70s one was a cult. This movie got banned. This movie went through a lot of crap. It was based on a play. Actors who played in this movie, their parents like, what are you doing? Because it's so over the top. So the premise of I Spit on Your Grave is this woman called Jennifer Hill. Okay, Jennifer Hill's an author who goes away into the woods to rent a log cabin. And there's a lot of it's a weird small little town, and there are all these outback people, and they go in there and these three guys, they rape her, they do all this crazy stuff to her. Okay, humiliate her, and this goes on for like 2 days. Or a day, a night, or something like that. She escapes them. She fakes her death and comes back and gets all of them in hideous ways. Okay, but I'm just giving you the premise. I'm not even talking about part 1. Okay, I Spit on Your Grave part 3. A lot of people haven't seen it because they say, okay, part 1, okay, it was controversial enough. There was a part 2 that was good. Part 3, Sarah Butler, who plays Jenny Hill, comes back. Okay. She's in a city. She's in basically a help group for rape victims.
Yeah.
Meets a friend. The friend gets like raped and killed or something like that. So she's now trying to find men who are out there doing bad things to women.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Did you see this movie?
No.
Okay.
I just know where it's
No,
going.
you have no idea where this is going. You have no idea what's going. The great thing about this movie though is victim turns
Vigilante.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. You know, it's so gross, but at the same time, it's like
Justified.
think about that. If something like that happened to you, what would you do? Cry? Go to the police?
Yep.
No. This woman is coming back to get revenge. So, especially when one of the perpetrators was a law enforcement person.
Whew.
So, in the third one, she's kind of like a vigilante of these kind of things. She finds this guy who I guess supposedly had something to do with her friend's problem. Okay. She goes into the alley with him. She gets on her knees. She starts performing oral sex on him. She has it in her mouth. Look at that. Okay, so she takes, as she's performing the oral sex, she takes a knife. She jams it up into the shaft. Bites off the head. Splits the shaft in half with her hands.
Oh, no.
Takes the knife. Starts going into the sack with a knife. The guy goes down on his knees to the ground.
All right.
And she spits the...
Nope. We're done.
Faking beans.
Nope, we're done.
This scene is just... I was not expecting it in the movie. My mind was just like, what the heck just happened?
I want to just say like 8 people just dropped off the views right now.
This was just... It was called... That's why I said warning.
Yeah.
Like, it was
man.
just out there. It was just... It was so beyond anything you'd ever seen. And I was just like, how? How did they put this in a movie? And it was just... Like
Oh
I
my
said, I
God.
went seriously cult, and it was
Yeah.
just...
All 4 of them were really good. The original,
Yeah.
I actually had a chance to meet Camille
The
Keaton, who was
first-
the original one.
Yeah.
Wicked nice lady.
Yeah,
Wicked nice lady.
the other thing is the interesting thing is the psychology behind it.
Yeah.
Because the actors who have to play this stuff, they get like the girl that played Jenny Hill's in the new one, Sarah. She was just like, there were so many scenes I just cried, really cried. And the actors who are doing this with her, you know, they're comforting her, and
Oh my
and it's just the psychology behind it.
She's
It's
going to go to a
just-
support
it's-
group
So-
after that.
It's just it's massive, and it's a brave thing for any actor or actress to take on.
Here's
And-
kind of funny thing. In the first remake, there was in the movie Mean Girls,
Yeah.
the gay dude that hung out with the girl
He doesn't
was
even go
in
to the school.
was in
That.
the I Spit on Your Grave as one of the guys who
Yeah.
ended up raping her.
But it's an all-time cult classic,
Yep.
like horror
I love
movie.
it.
That there were critics and the critics actually liked it. That was the thing, because the story is it's a good story. It's just it's over the top with what it does.
Yeah.
Same thing with Last House on the Left.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. I've seen that one. That one was good.
Great
That's where
movie.
like you're actually rooting for the killers in that movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're rooting for her in
Yeah.
this situation
Yeah.
after what happens. So it's a different beast. Jay Free's like, I warned you. I gave him a warning today at work.
Is that your number one?
That was the number one.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to kind of recap this real quick. I'm somewhat normal, and I have 3 freaks over to my left.
We should be able to actually put the scenes on TV on there. Come on, I mean, everyone wants to see that.
Yeah, that's what everybody.
I didn't even finish the rest of
Nope. Nope. Dude, I mean, I think this is a cool topic. I think out of our geekery though, we gotta dial it back just a little bit.
Well, that's the thing with horror; it can go so far.
Yeah.
And it's even my number 3 would offend a lot of people.
Yeah. So here's the thing. My number 1 is going to be totally different than all your number 1s.
Oh, boy.
I got to give you some background, though. I saw this film in college. I was actually taking a creative writing class, and they showed this film in the creative writing class. This film is from 1973, and there was a remake more recently with Nicolas Cage in it, which I did not see, and I don't want to see because the original holds a special place in my heart. You know where I'm going? Okay.
Are you talking about
This movie is
Nicolas
called
Cage? All right, hit me with that.
The Wicker Man.
It was horrible. The Nicolas Cage one was horrible. Beth and I
Okay,
watched it about
good.
a month and a half ago.
So it's the original was it's British. It's a British movie, and it was actually film magazine by the name of Cinefantastique called it the Citizen Kane for horror movies. Basically, so Rich is not feeling. I loved it. Because again, you're
I didn't even see the original. So
okay.
I mean,
So the original, it's
Nicolas Cage was horrible.
yeah. No, the Nicolas Cage one was probably horrible. But basically, this guy Sergeant Howie goes to this island called Summer Isle. He's looking for a missing girl, Rowan Morrison, after receiving an anonymous letter.
Yeah.
He's a devout Christian. He's so beside himself with all this paganism and all the praise to these Celtic gods on the island. And when he's staying at the inn on the island, Howie is seduced by the landlord's daughter. And he basically turns her down. He refuses, says, no, I'm remaining chaste. I believe in my God, and I'm going to wait till I'm married to actually lose my virginity. He then deduces, he meets Lord Summer Isle, and Summer Isle tells how his grandfather developed this strain of fruit trees, and it's been very plentiful. And then Howie deduces that during a previous poor harvest, what they need to do is have a ritual sacrifice of somebody, and he determines that it's supposed to be the girl that's gone missing. He ends up finding her, rescuing her, and then she runs back to her people. It was all a trap to set him up.
Yep.
And he was the sacrifice because he met the ritual criteria of these people. He arrived there of his own free will, wanting to find this girl. He had the power of a king, which because he represented the law. He was a virgin and a fool, and they put him up in this huge thing, and they burn him alive as a ritual sacrifice to their gods. And at the time, it was a huge twist. You didn't expect that to happen. And the reason I put that as my number 1 is because I saw another film more recently that took this idea and then pushed it even further. And this movie was actually done by Joss Whedon called Cabin in the Woods.
I love that movie.
And it's the same concept. It's these two people to save the earth from whatever. Instead of just saving, providing truth, she has to kill, all these other people in this ritual. And she decides, spoiler alert, at the end of Cabin in the Woods, she decides not to, which is a cool little twist. But it took that idea. It took a lot of ideas and feelings and tropes from the original Wicker Man. And it's a trip. If you watch it, it's a trippy movie, too. It's, super weird. And
Yeah. I want you to know that from what you just told me, that would have been so much better if they would have stuck to the original script because that Nicolas Cage remake was horrendous.
Yeah.
It wasn't an anonymous letter. It was from the girl that he was dating, who he was supposed to marry. So he wasn't a virgin or anything. It was her daughter who was missing, and he goes to the island to find her daughter, and all these women run the land, and he happens to be allergic to bees, so he's afraid of the bees on the island who are making the honey to do that. It was just nonsense, and it was a whole movie of Nicolas Cage walking around trying to find stuff, and females just giving him crap. The movie was awful.
speaking of awful, hello, Johnny Leathers.
Johnny Leather, that's Johnny Leather, bro. Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. You're a boy. So he's just chatting right now. He's saying thanks for spoiling it. I know you joined at the wrong time, Johnny. And John Viveris is on here too, I believe.
Johnny V.
And he's saying our T-shirt game is on point. So thank you, John. Yeah, so that's my number 1.
Deb mentioned my movie.
I'm rocking the Spider-Man. But all right, before we get out of here, we're gonna do a little thing called the bat signal, where we're gonna just kinda, exactly. Rich, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I got a friend who actually just opened up a collectible store in the Kingston Mall called Acclaimed Collectibles, and they sell comic books, anything Marvel, like, anything Walking Dead, any of that kind of stuff. So shout out to him. A shout out to Fan Zone, the place where I work. If you need any sporting like memorabilia or anything like that, come to the Kingston Mall, and we're there.
And you got your boy who's a rapper.
Yep, guy by the name of O. He is from Rhode Island. Great rap artist. Pretty good hip hop stuff. On the same idea as like Jedi mind tricks and stuff. And
So-
then
Go ahead.
there's another guy named Big Kurt from Taunton, and another guy named Massacre from Taunton. Both great hip hop artists
it's
if
all
you like
hip-hop
that
and rap.
style of stuff.
Concerning so for those that are listening to the audio, we're going to be playing that song on the outro because it uses some not safe for work language. We're not going to play it on here, but check out the audio. Go to Podbean or to iTunes or to Stitcher. Search For Your Geek. Find our podcast. Download episode 41, and just fast forward to the end and get to the end, and then listen to the song if you want to check that out.
Yeah, don't
But-
listen to the other stuff. Just
No, you can listen to it too. Listen on your drive to work, but.
Just two more things.
go for
It came from the 508, which is actually a production company out of, I believe, Fall River. They have a movie called One Last Kill that actually came out on, I believe, YouTube. You can watch it, One Last Kill. And the last thing is Bowser's Basement in Taunton, Mass. If you need anything video
to go
game
there.
wise and stuff, the guy is great. He's a great guy. Just go and see him. He buys and sells used equipment and stuff. So
Very cool. Don, anything you want to plug?
Shout out to our friends over at Game King on South
Yes.
Main Street, Fall River, where
Awesome dudes.
loaded with comics, tabletop games,
RPGs,
everything.
card games, collectibles, pop figures. If you're looking for dice or any type of other gaming material,
If you're looking for people to game with, they have what D&D session they have going on Sundays.
I forget now.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, but go check them out. If you're
We're gonna
looking
be-
for a group of guys to play with,
So depending on what's happening with the show next week, we're changing studios. Maybe we'll just go there and we'll just do a live video from there, just to see if they want to do that, and we'll check them out if we don't have a show next week.
I think that'd be really cool. I think
Be a
they'd
good idea.
appreciate it too.
Yeah, maybe we'll plan for that then. We'll just show up at Game King next week. No new show next week.
Yeah.
But we'll go to Game King and do a live video. We'll do like a mini episode, a mini-sode, if you will.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Anything else you want to plug?
I think that KB and I
Well, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, because I
just
got
saying-
something to say about KB.
No, I know what you're gonna say. So KB and I have been talking. We're gonna find the time. We're gonna get For Your Geek.
we've been
going.
trying to get it going, so we need to get that going.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna be getting that going
Because
soon.
there's just lots of good games right now
Yeah,
out there.
now is
we
definitely
really
the
gotta
time.
we really gotta get on the ball with that. So look for that soon.
Yeah. You guys check out my friends at Tap House. Check out my family at Java House. Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah. About
I love that place.
eat potato chips and Doritos subliminally.
Now we're gonna throw the test on KB. KB, plug away.
What was that?
Do our bat signal. What do we usually do? Go ahead. Let's
see.
see if you listened to last week's episode.
Let's see how many things that we have out there. Let's see that we have the Twitter,
Yeah,
we have the Instagram,
yeah,
we have the Facebook,
yeah.
we have the covers of the week. Let's see, we have.
Did you listen to last week's show?
Didn't get a chance
Okay,
to.
so here's the
I'm not
thing.
a Disney
Here's-
guy.
Here's what we did
No,
last
no,
week, because I say every time I do this, I kick it to you, and you'll just go check out covers of the week, and I'm like, check out covers of the week on what? so what I
He did it right, though,
He
so-
did do it right this time. So
I'm too lazy. I'll let you have it.
yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to the audio, go to
Podbean.
Facebook on Podbean or
iTunes.
Stitcher. Go to facebook.com/For Your Geek Podcast. We do covers of the week every Wednesday. KB does Marvel, I do DC. Then we have our Instagram and Twitter, For Your Geek on both of those. Follow us there. On our Instagram, I have a page-a-day calendar of all Marvel characters. Today is Doctor Strange. I posted Doctor Strange today on the Instagram. We have, our gaming channel, For Your Geek. What is it?
For your geek gaming.
For Your Geek Gaming, which, again, these two guys are going to get into eventually.
Twitch.
And what else we got? Anything else?
I don't think so.
We talked about Game King, another awesome place. And, I'm excited. I think we should do that next week.
Yeah.
That just kind of popped in
It'll
my
be
head.
pretty cool, guys. You guys should comment on this video, like second time around, not in the thing, but give us like your favorite horror movie death. We'll hashtag horror kills.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Feel free to comment on the video. Your favorites. We'll comment back. The three of us are all on the Facebook page. We'll go back and tell you what we think and which ones we like, which ones we agree with, disagree with. We probably don't disagree with much because, again, whatever your opinion is, you're right. So
The beauty of being a geek.
yeah. So
No judgment.
well, I'm judging you.
I know you are.
And when we will be coming back, we will be covering.
Oh, we'll be doing the March Mayhem finals. So again, we're going to be posting some more videos.
We want to talk Defenders some point.
We do want to talk Defenders at some point. But again, next week it's kind of up in the air. But pay attention to our Facebook page. We'll be sending out notifications there.
Nice.
And then we'll come up with some cool topics. I got some cool guests that are already asking to be on. So we got to just find something that we can all talk about.
As opposed to the not cool guests asking to come on. Oh, wow.
Just playing. KB's my boy. I've known him for years.
You my boy, Blue.
And I get him way more than he gets me. So,
That's true.
so
That's
he,
true.
he can take his shots.
We got to get you a Dazzler t-shirt.
Oh my God.
It's the Dazzler t-shirt.
What a hat. What a trucker hat.
Yeah.
Join us next week when I'll have 2 new co-hosts.
I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
That's a good reference.
All right, nice.
So right now we're gonna go out with our catchphrases and we're gonna play our tune. But again, if you're listening to the audio, stay tuned and listen to O at the end of this. So KB and Don hit him with the catchphrase.
Start your weekend with your geek friends.
And get your geek on.
Bye everybody.
See you later.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.